Hey guys, I have a different kind of video for you all today. If you've been following the channel for the past few months, you're probably well acquainted with the Saints Row retrospectives I've been putting out, one of which I just posted recently. While I'm working away on my retrospective for Saints Row 4, I wanted to try a different video to hold you guys over. In many of my retrospectives, you've most likely heard me talk about my quest for the Platinum Trophy. On this channel, I've done this for Batman Arkham Asylum, Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, Edge of Time, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and most recently, Saints Row the Third. During my downtime at work or winding down before bed, I've pivoted from my usual top 10 affair to more varied gaming content. Trophy Hunter videos have been a part of that rotation. I've been in love with trophy hunting for the past few years now, and I wanted to give this type of video a try. Since I was going to cover Saints Row 4 anyway, I figured this would be the perfect game to try it out with, and what better time to do it than on the game's 10th anniversary. For those who aren't familiar with Saints Row 4 or haven't played it in a while, here's a quick rundown. Following the story from Saints Row the Third, where we took control of Steelport, the next big leap in the chain sees the boss elected as the new president of the United States. Years following the election, aliens invade Earth, and we find ourselves trapped in a simulated version of Steelport. Throughout the game, we use our new set of superpowers to rescue our homies and put a stop to Zinniac's empire. It's a very bonkers story that takes heavy inspiration from a medley of IPs ranging from movies like The Matrix to other games like Splinter Cell and Mass Effect. This is the most polarizing entry in the series, aside from the reboot that we got last year, but my thoughts on the entire game will be saved for a later video. For now, let's go on the hunt for a Platinum Trophy. Similar to Saints Row the Third, Saints Row 4's trophy list didn't involve anything too taxing. With a difficulty of 3 out of 10 on PSN trophies and taking only one 40-hour playthrough, I blasted through this list fairly quickly. With 51 trophies, it took me a bit over a week to get the Platinum. This all begins by simply playing the story. There's a total of 12 trophies for completing story missions.
I should get a new tattoo.
There's also an additional 4 from completing different objectives throughout the story. The only one you can't miss is getting your first set of superpowers. Another one I was able to pop early on was done when I saved my custom character. This feature is really useful, especially for a trophy I will talk about towards the end of the video. Now, as far as missable trophies, there were only 2 that were story related. The first one happens roughly halfway through the story when we go to rescue Matt Miller. I get pulled out of the simulation by Zinniac and given 2 choices.
Before you, I place a choice. Walk through the blue door and continue to face yet more failures at saving those closest to you. Your race will live on borrowed time and will, through your violent arrogance, wind up extinct. Walk through the red door, however, and I will release the humans whom I have collected. I will give them amnesty, and even a ship from my fleet to do with as they see fit. However, in choosing this door, you will willingly submit yourself to execution.
I took a few minutes to see if this was a drastic decision, but luckily it just rewinds you back to make the other choice. I'll be completely honest, if I wasn't covering everything I needed for the retrospective, I probably would have missed this trophy. But luckily I went through and was able to get the trophy after watching the credits. The last story-related trophy is another missable one depending on how you play the game. A new addition to Saints Row 4 is a quest-like structure to their missions. Aside from story missions, there's also side missions and loyalty missions you can get from your homies after rescuing them. There are 9 trophies we can get from completing side missions, loyalty missions, and everything for each of your homies. With side missions, they aren't anything too special. It simply sees you completing activities and diversions that are placed around the city that can easily be done outside of the side missions. So this involved fighting a lot of Zen, playing insurance fraud, and completing assassinations. Since I was doing some of these in my spare time, there were cases when I already completed an entire side mission or only needed to finish 1 or 2 objectives. It did help get me closer to 100%, but things did get repetitive after a while. Loyalty missions see the boss and another homie complete missions that is specific to them. This could be helping both Shondies kill Veteran Child from Saints Row 2, or helping Benjamin King kill Tanya from Saints Row 1. These were fun deviations from story missions and added more personality to these characters. Now for the everything requirement. You have to romance every single person on the ship.
Hey Kinsey, you wanna fuck?
Let's go.
Heavily inspired by Mass Effect, most of them involve having sex with these characters, but a couple did subvert my expectations. Too bad I couldn't do it with Keith David though. I was able to finish the one for Keith and Sid early on since these two did not have loyalty missions. Once I unlocked everybody, I took care of all the loyalty missions and got the trophies for Shondi, Matt, Asha.
Puerto Rican Thunder God? He was sweet and all, but...
Oop, sorry, I had to romance Shondi again. Johnny, which was very uncomfortable. Pierce, Ben, and Kenzie. And once all of these were done, I was able to unlock the last story trophy for completing the final mission after completing all homie missions. Now to tackle the rest of the game's trophies. My entire game plan for this was to get as many trophies as I could while playing the main story, so I didn't have to do too much grinding once the game was over. This is kind of essential for these games because enemies aren't as common to find once the story is over, which can make kill related trophies tough to get. To keep this video organized, however, the next portion I want to tackle is in terms of trophies related to powers. The biggest addition to the franchise, this game has 8 trophies that correlate with each power. The first one I unlocked required me to be airborne for a combined 10 minutes using the super jump power. I spent the early hours looking for collectibles and exploring the map, so this came surprisingly quickly. The next few came soon after unlocking a new power. There's one for using the blast ability to freeze and shatter kill 100 enemies.
Did that guy skip combat training?
Kill 100 enemies with telekinesis. Kill 100 enemies with the fire buff power. And super sprint for 250,000 meters. The last one took some time because, that's a lot of running around. With super sprint becoming my primary way of traveling after a few upgrades, I didn't get this trophy until I was close to finishing the story. These next 3 were a bit tricky to unlock. There's one for killing 150 aliens using the stomp superpower. What makes this one challenging is that performing a stomp on an enemy with full health only knocks them back. You have to weaken them before the stomp counts as a kill. I only had around 50 when I finished the story, so I had a bit of a grind ahead of me. Again, there aren't that many enemies around after the story was done, so I had to grind this trophy out with the hardest Fight Club activity. One of the rounds is King of the Hill, where an infinite supply of enemies will come and attack you, so freezing a bunch of Vice Kings and stomping them just as they unfroze did the trick, and I was able to pop the trophy after a few rounds. I used the exact same method when I needed to kill 100 enemies with death from above. While that's the last trophy I needed for using a specific power, there's one more that makes use of all your powers. I had to kill 1,000 enemies with any combination of superpowers. So killing enemies with an ice blast and performing a stomp attack, or throwing an enemy who's on fire would count. Nothing tough, but I only had around 600 enemies killed when I finished the story, so it was back to Fight Club. I did this after pounding the pavement and fist meets ground, so without worrying about getting power specific kills, I was able to get this trophy after a couple of rounds of Fight Club.
Now I am become death.
While the powers received the biggest focus in the game, weapons were not left on the back burner. There is a wide selection of alien weapons like the dubstep gun, inflato ray, bounce gun, disintegrator, abduction, and black hole gun. These are extremely fun to use, with the only caveat being the recharge time. These guns don't use regular ammo, but instead overheat after prolonged use. The black hole gun, for example, can take up to 10 minutes to recharge. To make things even worse, the in-game challenges require anywhere from 100 to 150 kills for these different weapons, so upgrades are almost necessary for all of them. However, for this trophy, I only needed to get 25 kills with each weapon, which got me yet another trophy. Now speaking of upgrades, there are 3 trophies related to this. You get one after upgrading a weapon to its max level. This one actually took me a while since upgrades can be pretty expensive and it takes a while to earn a decent amount of money. It wasn't until I worked on the last trophy I mentioned prior that I luckily had enough to upgrade the disintegrator to the max. The next one unlocks after purchasing your first normal upgrade, and the last one comes from purchasing all superpower upgrades. Here's the catch. Upgrades for superpowers require a different type of currency. These use data clusters that are spread all across the map. There are 2 trophies related to this, but before moving to that, I want to wrap up this section with the last 2 trophies related to powers and weapons. When it comes to powers, Blast, Stomp, Telekinesis, and Buff have different abilities from their default. Some have fire, explosion, lightning, shrinkage, the list goes on. By simply changing the default element to one of these, we can unlock another trophy. Circling back to weapons, customizing each weapon we have on the radial wheel gives us this trophy. Most of the grind for this trophy list came from completing activities in the open world. There aren't too many of these trophies, but this easily took up half of my total playtime. Starting easy are the game's collectibles. As I mentioned before, there are hundreds of data clusters spread around the map that are used to upgrade our powers. Finding the first 100 data clusters gets us our first collectible related trophy. And then we jump from finding 100 to finding 100% of all data clusters. With a total of 1,255, I had a bit of work to do. To start, when I wasn't dedicating my time solely to finding them, I was able to get them pretty easily since in the beginning they're pretty much everywhere you go. Collecting them as I happened to pass by and setting aside time every now and then, I ended up finding more than 1,000 of these before finishing the story. There is a collectible finder that can be unlocked after completing an early side mission, but it took me way too long to figure out that I could use it on the big map in the hub menu. For some dumb reason, I always assumed it was only for the minimap. After that revelation, I was able to pinpoint their exact spot, and soon the trophy was mine.
Is that all of them?
The collectible finder also helped with tracking the game's audio logs. With 39 of them, this actually isn't something you can dedicate time to early on. They only appear after rescuing your homies and completing loyalty missions to unlock characters from the past who will be your homies like Marrow and Julius. I was able to find 36 before playing Kenzie's loyalty mission and finding Cyrus's last 3 audio logs to finish things up and unlock the trophy.
I'll never regret that night I had with Kia.
We've been traveling a lot around Steelport, and there are a couple of trophies related to completing everything the city has to offer. Completing all the activities in 2 districts unlocks halfway home, and completing everything in every district gives us how it should be. Funny enough, I unlocked these trophies about 5 minutes apart from each other. This next trophy is one of those random inclusions. We have to make a jump from the roof of the 3-count casino to the nuke plant without touching the ground or other rooftops. The normal way to do this would be to wall run off different buildings, but I was able to call in a jet and fly all the way there. This doesn't seem to work for a lot of people, but luckily it worked just fine for me. The last 2 trophies for this section kind of go hand in hand. We have to kill 25 wardens, large aliens that come with their own set of superpowers. They appear sporadically throughout the game, so I had maybe 12 warden kills by the time I finished the story. Afterward, I would go to the military base and use the warp weapon to build up my notoriety really fast. Doing this a few times popped the trophy,
What kind of warden are you?
and it ties into the next one. In Saints Row 4, there are 66 in-game challenges. Some of these tie into the trophies I've been collecting so far, but the majority of them just require completing activities with different rankings, killing a specific number of aliens, murder bots and portals, and taunting 50 aliens, among many others. I worked on these challenges steadily throughout my playthrough and only had a few left when it came to the endgame. My last challenge, funnily enough, was killing 30 wardens. Doing the same method as before 5 more times gave me the trophy.
Guess that means I win.
The last set of trophies I want to talk about are time related. There are only 3, and all except for one are pretty reasonable to obtain. One that can be unlocked early is by playing as a female for 2 hours and a male for 2 hours. I usually play as a female in most games where I can customize my character, so these 2 hours came naturally. Playing as a male was appealing this time since I could have Nolan North voice my character.
It always drove me crazy that you had exes in every city and were willing to go on a dating show, but not once did you ever give me a shot.
Now that I could quickly switch my characters thanks to the feature I mentioned earlier, I was able to pop this trophy after only a few hours. The next one involves spending 2 hours outside of missions with past Saints Row characters. I waited until I unlocked Johnny Gat to go for this trophy. That, and I didn't realize it was only outside of story missions. Sadly, I didn't get any footage of this, but here's my proof. The last trophy before I got my glorious platinum required me to spend 40 hours in the simulation. Now, by the time I actually hit 100%, I was only at the 21-hour mark, and playing through the DLC only put me at 26, meaning I had to leave my character idle for 14 hours.
Hey, you there. You around? We playing this game or what?
Making sure my power saving settings were off, I left it on one night, and soon after I woke up, the in-game clock hit the 40-hour mark, giving me this and my platinum.
Ho! Ho!
Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Like I mentioned in the beginning, this is a very different type of video I'm trying out, so please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. See you guys next time.